Hi, I'm Peter Gordon and I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful spiced pear tart tatin with Parmigiano-Reggiano in it, and it's going to go superbly with a beautiful aged tawny port. So what you want to do first of all is put your spices into a pot. I've got a pot of simmering water here, whole star anise, some lemon peel, half a chilli, seeds and all, because you want spice. If you're not into chilli, don't put it in, but you know, you'll be missing something. Ginger. All I've done is I've peeled root ginger, slice it pretty thin. This goes in. I've got some unrefined caster sugar, sprinkle this in, and then the pears. What you want to use is a pear that you can poach that can bake really well, so something like a commise or a conference works really well. All you want to do is peel it with a potato peeler, split it down the middle, use a melon baller or a small teaspoon to scoop out the seeds, get rid of the base of the pear, and then also any stalk that's in there, and just put this into a pot. So you've got your 8 pear halves in there cooking. You want to bring it back to the boil. The last thing you need to add to that pot is some ground allspice. You can buy it already ground or you can just crush it up yourself. The last thing you need to do is put a cartouche on. Now what that is just a piece of waxed paper folded into quarters, folded into eighths until you've got a nice shape like this. What you want to do is cut it the same diameter as the saucepan, so you do half of it here. Cut it into a circle like this, into a little wedge, almost like a wedge of a tart. Then open it up and just plonk it on top of the pears. And any poached fruit that you're doing, whether it be pears or apples or peaches, do this and it helps them cook better, keeps all the moisture in them, stops them going brown. Really beautiful. Now the next thing to do is grab some aged tawny port and do the pastry. Now the wonderful thing about aged tawny port is that it's been aged in barrels, wooden barrels, and it gives it a beautiful oxidization process which gives it a nutty flavour. It changes the colour from a really red port into a kind of a more mellowy browny red colour. So what might seem quite strange is that I took the port from the fridge, and the reason I do this is that aged tawny port, in fact most of the ports benefit from being a little bit chilled. It's quite a nice addition to serving it. It's great. So what I'm going to serve with this, as I said earlier, was my spiced pear tart tatin with Parmigiano-Reggiano. What I need for that is some puff pastry. Now you can make your own puff pastry, but it's pretty time consuming. So just buy a really good full butter, if you can get it puff pastry, roll it out to about 4 millimeters thick, and you're going to find that you've got a rectangle because that's how pastry comes. What you want to put on top of that is some grated Parmigiano-Reggiano, just on half of the pastry, then fold the pastry in half. And because we're going to bake this in a round fry pan, you want to turn this into a round shape. So what you've got to do is just carefully roll the pastry, roll it out at the corners first, and then twist your rolling pin around. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, but what you don't want really is to have a big square. So then tuck in the corners, just roll it in. And the ideal size fry pan for this size tart is about 25 to 30 centimetres in diameter. So what we do is just hold the pan above it so you know the pastry is slightly bigger than the pan itself, because you want a little bit of overhang, and you'll find out why shortly. And that now just needs to go into the fridge and just chill for about 20 minutes. So now it's time to make the caramel part of the tart, and to do that just get yourself a heat-proof fry pan, put in some butter, and when it's pretty much all melted, sprinkle in some more unrefined caster sugar, and then over a medium to high heat, bring it up to the point where the sugar begins to caramelise. As it heats up, just stir it a little bit until we begin to get a nice light golden caramel. Now while that's doing that, what I have here are the pears, and what I've done is they cooked for 10 minutes, and then I just took them out with a slotted spoon, inverted them upside down on a cake rack, and you let them drain. Grab a bowl with a sieve, take your hot syrup, so it's been reduced by 3/4, pour it through, and this becomes a lovely syrup that's great drizzled over the tart at the end. Caramel, meanwhile, it's got a beautiful golden colour, and what you want to do is put the pears in, cut side facing up, you'll hear them sizzle. And you're going to be cutting this into wedges, so you want a piece of pear per wedge. This is going to take about 1.5 minutes to cook. So that smells amazing and they're ready. So what you want to do is grab your pastry. It's just been in the fridge for the amount of time that I've had to make the caramel. The easiest thing is just kind of fold it over a rolling pin like this, and then just use that to lay on top. So make sure if you're using gas that the flames turn down a little bit. You don't want to kind of burn your fingers as you do this. And then using your fingertips, just tuck it in around the edge, try and push it as flat. You don't want too much air in there. And then with a sharp knife, just poke a few holes around, and that allows the air vents to come out. Because you're going to find in there that the pears and the caramel are all steaming away, and they're going to produce an awful lot of steam. Now, the great thing about this pan is that the handle comes off, so it fits in the oven really easily. If you've got a cast iron pan or a pan that can definitely go in and not burn the handle, then you can do that. So you want the oven at 220 degrees. Puff pastry really needs that temperature. And then you want to cook it in here for a good 15 to 20 minutes minimum. Okay? You want the pastry golden, you want it puffed up, and you want those pears lovely and caramelised on the bottom. So the tart's been cooking for about 15 to 20 minutes. You take it out of the oven, put it on a cake rat and let it cool, because it's incredibly hot. That caramel is just really fiery. So once it's begun to stop bubbling, give the pan a bit of a shake, because you want to make sure the pastry hasn't stuck to the pan. And that's fine. And then get yourself a platter, invert the plate or your platter on top of the tart, then flip it over. Oh, beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous tart. So there's a bit of sauce there. When it's hot, the sauce is going to be like a runny caramel sauce. As it cools down, and you can make this in the morning for a dinner party in the evening, the sauce begins to settle a bit, kind of firms up slightly. While it's still nice and hot, grate on some more fresh Parmigiano-Reggiano right across the top. To get this recipe and find out more about Parmigiano-Reggiano and aged tawny port and other Discover the Origin products, go to discovertheorigin.co.uk.